I'm Lyle Koca, and first I want to thank Jim and the rest of the New Beginnings family for putting on the event and having us here. I get the pleasure of introducing my husband, Chiroman. December will mark 33 years. When I met him, I had no idea what the word chiropractic meant. I'd never heard subluxation. I'd never been adjusted. So I'd like to really thank him for bringing me into this profession and for us spending the last 33 years and charging forward building our chiropractic empire. Lyle Koca.
So to kind of follow up what Sean Dill said, he said he's that guy that, he wants to say things, but then he says something else. Well, I'm that guy that just says shit. So I apologize for nothing, because it's just going to happen, right? Right? Wow. So let's start this off here. I can't remember what Doc said it. They're talking about there's mixers and principled and stuff like that. And I don't remember what it was, but what is this? It's a bottle of water, right? But if I take this bottle of water and I add some syrup to it and some more chemicals to it, and I put a red, white, and blue label on it, it's Pepsi, right? Any English people in this room? Let's start that again. Is it Pepsi, right? So it's either water or it's either Pepsi, correct? So it's either chiropractic or it's not. So when I got into chiropractic, all I knew it was about getting adjusted. That's all that I knew that it was. And it amazed me that I further followed down chiropractic that people did other stuff. And they still called it chiropractic. So granted, I get it. We've got to get out and have people sell our product. One of the things that we've done in our office for 30 plus years and taken care of thousands of people. I think we've done 4 screenings and I've hated all 15 of them. I don't do talks. I know we probably should, but we average, 90 new patients a month. The trick that we've done is we've taught our patients how to tell our message, so then I can go home and chase my wife around the house, and they can go home and sit at the dinner table and talk about what we do in our office. We've made it really simple. That way they sell for us. But the way they do that, the trick to doing it, is you've got to create an experience in your office. How many people think that fuel is important in their car? A few of you. Do you tell anybody where you get fuel?
If they ask.
But you just don't randomly sitting at the dinner table, sitting around with friends, Jeff, going, holy crap, I got to tell you where I got fuel today. I mean, it was amazing. You don't do that, right? Yeah. So let's say you go to a gas station, right? Because you need fuel to do stuff, don't you? And you need fuel to have the experience in life, right? So let's say you go to a gas station and you pull into this gas station. And as you're getting there, some lovely young woman comes up in a little itty-bitty bikini and says, I got this, big boy. I'm going to put the fuel in your car, and I'm going to pay for it. Are you good with that?
I'm fine.
When you're sitting around with a bunch of friends, you're going to tell them? Absolutely. Holy crap, you're not going to believe what happened to me, right?
Gotta go.
You're going to tell this guy? You're going to tell James?
Sure.
So James pulls in. He gets fuel. What are you looking for? Right? But instead, some big muscular dude looking like Dubell comes up, puts a gun to your head, says, give me your car, give me your wallet, I'm out of here. Are you going to tell somebody? See, here's what happens, people. Patients tell one of 2 things, the great or the shitty, but they don't tell the period. You have to make every single human experience in your office with an exclamation point. If you make it with the period, they're telling nobody. If you make it with the question mark, they're telling everybody. If you make it with an exclamation point, they're telling everybody. Every human experience you have from beginning to end in your office needs to be an exclamation point. Who, building their practice, had obstacles and challenges? We all did, right? Sit around with Aunt Edna. I mean, she's thrilled you're a doctor. You're not a real doctor, but you're a doctor, right? you know, this is my little niece Gina. She wanted to be a doctor, couldn't be a dentist, so she's a chiropractor. But we're happy for her. Then you got to go out and tell your friends that you're a chiropractor. Oh, you're not a real doctor. You ever heard that? That's an obstacle, and that's a challenge. We've all had that, correct? How many people think that we create massive value that nobody else does in their clinic? Anybody? We do. A few of you do. How many people think, by being not a real doctor, creating massive value, that we should get paid a lot more money than we are? One person does. How many people in this room would do whatever it takes to make more money in their practice? That little dude back there, who wants $100? Who wants a $100 bill? Who wants a $100 bill? There's, why? Why? Why'd you get up and do it? Why?
Why not?
But why? There had to be a reason why. Why did everybody sit here on their ass and go, I don't think he means it? See, that's what you're doing in your practice. Can I say ask Jim?
Too late.
Okay. But how many people in your practice, you're sitting on your butt and you're doing nothing to build your practice? See, here's what amazes me about chiropractors. We're in an insanely safe environment here, right? It's safe. We're amongst a bunch of chiropractors. We can be a little bit nuts, a little jacked up, a little crazy, right? But instead we go, yay, go chiropractic. So how in the hell do you expect the general public to get excited about what you do when you can't even do it with a bunch of chiropractors in the room? Really? God, this is freaking crazy. Think about it, people. How do you build your practice? You can't even get jacked up here. So can we make an agreement starting right now, going through tonight, Saturday and Sunday, that we're going to get a little bit more jacked up, a little bit more excited so we can go out and get off our ass and make more money, yes? No, I mean really, yes? Because really, think about it. There is no way your patients are going to get more excited than you. Your patients do what you do in your practice. They act like you do. They do what you do. If you don't listen, guess what your patients are doing? They're not listening. If you walk into your office and you half-ass the adjustment, they're going to half-ass talking about you. Your patients do what you do. They mimic you. They copy you. You want to know why when you left your practice on Wednesday you weren't thrilled? This is what's happening right here. This is the problem we have in chiropractic. We get all jacked up to go to a seminar. We come to a seminar. We might get excited. And you have James Peck. How many years in practice? Like 90?
86.
Seriously, how many years?
40.
Freaking amazing. So gang, everybody should have ran up here for $100. That little dude, you should have... You're a Colby. I figured you didn't like race up here for the $100. So there's this guy, his name is Cliff Young. Anybody heard of Cliff Young? So Cliff Young was a 61-year-old sheep farmer in Australia. And there's this Australian race, and they run from Sydney to Melbourne. It's 554.37 miles. For those of you who are mathematically deficient, a lot of miles, okay? So the idea of the race is you start in Sydney, you run to Melbourne. The typical runner will run the race. They'll run 6-7 hours a day. They'll sleep the rest. They'll regenerate. They'll do it again. Well, Cliff Young, 61 years old, he shows up and he runs this race. Shows up in his galoshes and his coveralls, but he puts on his running outfit and he runs this race. Cliff Young finishes the race 2 days ahead of every single runner. Smashes the record. So they asked Cliff Young, why? How did you do this? And he's like, well, you know, it was pretty easy. First of all, I didn't know that I was supposed to sleep. And then when I found out that I was supposed to sleep, my guy who was supposed to wake me up woke me up after I only had 2 hours of sleep, so I got up and started running. Because that's what he assumed he had to do. He also was a sheep farmer who lived on 2,000 acres. They had 2,000 sheep. What he did when the storms had come in Australia, because they didn't have the money to buy horses or four-wheelers to go out and round the sheep up, is Cliff would go out and he would run for 3 days to go out there and round up the sheep. So we'd get the sheep in. So he just pretended when he was running this race, he was rounding up the sheep, and it was easy to him. Well, Cliff wins it, wins $10,000, spreads the money around. What Cliff Young did is he didn't buy into anybody else's belief system. He bought into his belief system that was his. Here's what we have done. Young chiropractors in here, don't listen to some of the old guys. But what he did is he has his own belief system. What we've done as a profession is we've bought into other people's belief system. When I set up my practice in Omaha, Nebraska, Sean and I moved there in '89, is that right? When I came to Omaha, Nebraska, I introduced myself to every chiropractor, and here's what I was told. Oh my gosh, you don't want to be in Omaha. It's the worst place to practice. You don't want to be this in Nebraska. It's the worst state to practice. Then I found my location, and everybody in the area where my location was, oh my Lord, it's the worst area in Omaha to practice. So, I mean, we really started off sucky. We picked the worst state, the worst city, and the worst location. And then they said, and don't do this in your practice. Well, what we did is what, Sean was talking about, going door to door. Sean, I went door to door in 1989. I went to every door. I chose to do 200 houses a day. Introduce myself, because I didn't have the money to advertise. And everywhere I went, who I was, what I was. And we built a hell of a practice by not buying into other people's philosophies and belief system. My belief system was that everybody deserved to get checked. My belief system that everybody needed to go to a chiropractor. Not me, because there's some people that, believe it or not, Gene, that may not like me. Which is weird because I'm so freaking cool. Who wouldn't like me? But we busted our ass and we built our practice by not buying into other people's belief systems. So I want to ask you guys sitting here in this room and ladies in the room, whose belief system are you living? When you opened up your practice 43 years ago, however many years ago, is it still your practice? Or have you caved in just to be accepted? Because that's what happens as a chiropractic profession. We want to be liked. We want people to like us. When we sit at the table, we want to be liked. Honestly, I kind of half like it if I go somewhere and they'll go, oh shit, there he is. I'm okay with that. I know Reggie did. Didn't bother him. I want to be liked for who I am, not accepted for who I am. I don't care. What I do know is our profession deserves to be great. What I've done, and I just did it the other day, I had the opportunity, how am I on time?
Keep going.
I got another 30 minutes, is that right? Is that right, Kevin? 17 minutes, okay. So, but I had the opportunity, one of my patients, her mom used to work for Major DeJarnette. And she told me that about 2 weeks ago. I was like, holy crap, that's one of the greatest chiropractors ever. And so I said, I want to interview your mom about the Major. So she came in Tuesday, and I sat my iPhone down, I did a 36-minute interview with her, just for me, because I want to know about some of the greatest chiropractors ever. And I asked Denise, I said, what is the coolest thing about Major DeJarnette? And I asked her about 4 different times. And she said this repeatedly over and over again. He really cared about people, and he really wanted to know people. I said, did he spend a lot of time educating people about chiropractic? She goes, oh no. He wanted to know about their family, and he wanted to care about them. It's pretty simple, isn't it? I got to tell you what, guys, that's the trick. I for a long time, when I graduated school, and when I was in school, I had saddled around with Mrs. Gonstead a lot, and I'm a hardcore diehard Gonstead guy. And Phyllis Markham, who analyzed all of Dr. Gonstead's x-rays. And I used to ask them the same thing, what made Dr. Gonstead? And that was it, is he really cared about people and really got to know their families. He got to know them. That's the trick. And they were who they were. Wilt Chamberlain, 1961, 1962, scores 100 points in one game. Prior to that, Wilt Chamberlain's career free throw percentage was 35 to 50%, which means he sucked. Comes out in 1961, 1962, scores 100 points, decides that year he's going to shoot the ball underhand. Copied Rick Barry. Wilt Chamberlain's free throw percentage that year, ironically, 61, 62, was just under 60%. I believe it was 60.6%, right at 61%. The following year, Rick Barry quit doing that. You want to know why? Because it felt awkward, and people ridiculed him. Does that resonate, chiropractors? See, when you go up, it's really easy to talk to patients about nutrition. I just checked back there, 89,000 books on nutrition. Anybody in the world can read crap on nutrition. But it's really weird to talk to people about chiropractic. It's really easy to talk to people about essential oils, pillows, massage, acupuncture. It's generally accepted by the public. But what we do presently is not generally accepted. So here's what I'm telling you to do. Start shooting underhand free throws again. Who cares? Start making, high five to you, buddy. So, is that what you were telling me? Or I'm only a 5 because my wife says I'm a frickin' 10. So, who cares? One of the things that I really, when I was in school and I was a student, is I wanted to be the greatest chiropractor on the planet Earth. And I would tell that to Sean. I would sit and I would go back as a student. I would read the green books and I'd look at these gigantic video cassettes of some of the greatest adjusters, chiropractors ever. And I wanted to be one of the greatest chiropractors on the planet Earth. Now, could you imagine collectively in this room if we all decided and committed today, A, I'm going to start getting jacked up, right? Right. And B, I am going to commit myself to being one of the greatest freaking chiropractors on the planet Earth. Could we make a minor dent in what's happening out there right now? Yes? Yes. So there's 5 things that I figured out that made the grade. One of them, it requires that you've got to be emotionally committed. Sometimes I feel I should just be committed, but that's another issue. But you've got to be all in. I mean, when you go into that office, it's all in. You've got to be purely authentic. You've got to be you. Your patients know when you're all in. The second thing that I realized that it takes to be great is you got to require self-awareness. You have to know who you are. And I have to tell you, that's a struggle I think a lot of us have, is we don't know who we are. And if we do know who we are, it sucks and we don't want to be that person. So change it. But you've got to know who you are and you have to be comfortable with who you are. The third thing, you've got to surround yourself with ideal mentors. I still do that to this day. I still reach out to my mentors. They always don't have to be chiropractors. Some of my heroes, Irena Sendler, Ozio McCarthy. These are my mentors that I look up to that did great things in this world. Some of the great chiropractors, Reggie, Dr. Gonstead, Dr. Troxel, for those of you who graduated from Palmer back years ago, I had the pleasure of working with Dr. Gonstead. Sean ran his front desk for 2 years? Those were the greats. The fourth thing, you've got to really focus. When you're in your office, you're in your office. You're not thinking about, oh crap, what color should I paint the house? What should I do? You've got to be insanely focused. And the last thing that it takes to be a great chiropractor, it requires simplicity. This profession is simple. Take the time, commit the time to really being one of the greatest artful adjusters and be so simple with that adjustment. How am I on time? 5 more minutes? That's what I thought. 7? 4? Okay. So how many people remember their very first chiropractic adjustment? Wasn't it like the coolest when you delivered the adjustment? I mean, do you remember it? Did you just go, wow, man, that was so good? Do you remember that? Oh my God, good, I did. It was so good. It was my wife, ASRP Atlas. I mean, I got jacked. How many people adjusted somebody Wednesday? And you kind of went, yeah, that's pretty good, next. You've got to get so flippin' jacked every time you adjust somebody and just go, oh my God, that was good. And it's an adjustment after adjustment after adjustment, and you got to ooze it from your soul. That's what makes it. I got to tell you what, people, it's the only adjustment that person's going to get that day. And unfortunately for some of those people, it may be their last adjustment that day. Don't take the adjustment for granted. The last thing I have to say, because I guess I have to go now. Do I have to go? Thanks, Jim. You know, there was a time one of the docs put a picture up there of the jailed chiropractors, and that's a fascination of mine. In March, Sean and Blake went to Waco, Texas. And there's gates in front of this building, chained, not to go in, but it was the clinic of Charles Lemley. Does anybody know who Charles Lemley is? Yeah. Charles Lemley jailed 7 times in one day, 66 times in his career, but he had a sanitarium in Waco, Texas. So my daughter broke the law to sneak through the gates to get pictures of the sanitarium for me. See, I'm fascinated with the greats who went to jail for us, and I could sit here all day and tell you stories. But you have to understand that there was a time in chiropractic that part of the rights of being a chiropractor, the privilege, you had a very good chance you were going to get arrested that day. And you were going to go to jail. So that's why a lot of these greats, when they would go to work, they'd go to work with a bag with an apple, a banana, and a sandwich in it. And you knew your life was screwed when the guy walked in the door and had the clean shoes. The shiny shoes meant there was a good chance you were getting arrested. What those greats did for us is they laid the road down. They paved that road. They put the lines on the center of the road. They put the line in the middle of the road where not to go. And they kept that road clean. They kept the weeds out of the road. But here's what's happened, chiropractors. We've decided to take our eyes off the road. Now what's happened? There's cracks in the road, the lines are gone, and there's weeds that are growing. We've lost sight. We've gotten out of our lane. They paid a price for you to be in this room. They went to jail for you. Their families were scrutinized, ridiculed. Their children did the same thing. So you could sit in this room. So do me a favor. Show them the price that they paid for you to sit in this room was worth it. Show them the confidence that they had in you that you could carry on this sacred trust was worth it. Can we do that?
Yeah.
I mean, can we frickin' do that?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.